All right. Coming to the stage next, our next storyteller. He is also a writer and a public speaker out in Brooklyn. He has been featured, he's been published in the Washington Post first of all, but he's also been featured on The Moth, Speak Up Storytelling, and Love Hurts podcasts. And he is the founder of Unreeling Storytelling, which sorry, provides a platform for hidden perspectives. So please welcome to your screens, Devan Sandiford.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you so much, man. So it's 2001, I'm 15 years old, and I'm opening up this cooler on a beach camping trip. And I open this cooler and I look inside and I see a ton of beer. And this is a big problem actually, because I'm 15 years old, but the real reason it's a big problem is because I go to a Seventh-day Adventist Christian school. And at my school, it's just not a regular Christian school. At my school, we have chapels every Friday. We pray in all of our classes. And there's even this really awkward guy named Jammin who goes up on the stage and he does this terrible Christian rap, which includes the acronym JAM, J-A-M, for Jesus and me. So we're not joking around. It's a very serious Christian situation. And when I open this thing and I look and I see this beer, and I'm like, why is there beer in here? And I'm there with my three best friends, and we're trying to figure out, we're supposed to be at our friend's campsite. He had told us, yeah, go ahead and grab some stuff. And we're like, why does he have beer here? And all of a sudden we hear, you kids, get out of my shit. I can see you guys. And we're like, whoa, that's not our friend's voice at all. And we look around and we're like, this is not actually his cooler. This is not even our friend's campsite. We had gone to the complete wrong campsite. And so we're like frozen, and we're like, should we stop and should we like explain this to the guy that we mixed this up? But I'm 15, I'm black, and I have an afro. My two other friends, they're black, they're twins. One of them has cornrows and he's always wearing red. And the least suspicious person out of us, our last friend, a guy named Nazareth, he's a genius and he skipped 2 grades. So he's like 13, maybe 14, but he looks like he could be 40. So we're like, I don't think we can explain this. And he's like, I'm calling the cops. And that was our cue. And we're like, we take off running. We're not staying around here. And at this particular beach campsite, it's one of those ones where this top row is all campsites and it overlooks the water. And if you go in either direction, if you go for like 100 meters, you'll hit a staircase that leads down to the beach. So we're like, let's just book it and go down to the beach. We'll run for a bit and then we'll try and like regroup and figure out how we're gonna do this. We don't want like to get caught by the cops. Like, and we go to this really this private school which has mostly, I'd say like 95% white people. And being that there's a group of 3 black people, we're like, we can't really hide. So as 14 and 15-year-olds, we think, what, the best thing to do would be, let's switch shirts, because that way they won't be able to distinguish us. And we're like, yeah. And we're like starting to take our shirts off and we're like, wait a minute. Like, it's still gonna be the same 4 combination of shirts, regardless of how we switch them. Like, they're gonna know it's us. Like, we gotta come up with a better plan. So we're like, you forget that plan. Like, let's just walk down the beach for like as long as possible. We'll just walk and then like, we'll just wait it out. Like, he's not gonna be that upset. We'll just keep walking and hopefully he'll just forget it and like, they'll stop looking for us. So that's what we do. We walk along the beach for a really long time. It was probably like 45 minutes. And the sun is starting to go down at this point and the tide is starting to come in. And I'm like, you know what, guys, we should probably head back. Like, our group is going to be looking for us. The rest of our classmates are going to be like, where's Devin, Mark, Michael, and Nas? Like, where are they? And so the rest of the guys are like, yeah, that's true. We should head back. So we head up one of these other staircases on the far side of the campground. And we're now back up on the top level and we're walking along and we're like, our plan, it's all right, but the guy's campsite is actually near our campsite. Like, all of our classmates have campsites that are right next to his. And our group campsite is very near the guy's one. So we're like, we got to come up with something better than what we've come up with so far. So we're like, you know what we'll do? We will stop at campsites along the way and help them with things. So that way we have alibis. So we stop at a random campsite and we're looking and it's like this family and they're like, they look like they could use some help, like moving a picnic table. So we're like, oh, we'll get that for you. And we like pick up the picnic table and we move it from one side to the other side. And they're like, oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are some great kids. And we're like, yeah, we're just here with our, with our rest of our school, like trying to give them some indicators just in case that they need to recognize us. And then we stop at another campsite and like we see trash. We're like, you know what, let's just help pick up this trash. And like, we're waving at random people, telling them hi. And we're like, this plan is going perfect. Like, all these people are going to know us and we're going to have all these alibis. There's no way the guy's going to be able to say like, no, like 3 people are wrong and you're right. Like, no, we're not the people. It's just, you don't know who you're talking about. And we're loving this plan. We're walking along until we bump into these 2 older teenagers. And they stop us. They're like, hey guys, hey, what's up? Like, if you're going to keep walking this way, you got to make sure that you got to watch out, because there's some guys over here and they're going crazy and they're trying to blame us for something that we haven't even done. And we're like, what? Like, it's been like at least an hour. This guy is still going crazy about this. Like, we picked up the beer bottles. That was it. Like, we can't believe it. So we like try and get some details out of them without giving them any details about us. And we're like, so like, what were the guys telling you? And they're like, yeah, the guys were telling us that we were like trying to talk to these girls, but these girls were too young for us and that we need to like leave. Like, we shouldn't be in their area. And we're like, what are they talking about? Like, girls, that wasn't part of. And we're like, wait a minute, what do the guys look like? And they're like, it's one of the guys, like this big white guy with this huge beer belly, and he's got a trucker hat, and he's with this older black guy who's really stern. Like, just make sure you watch out for them. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. But as soon as they walk away, we like, oh, we know these guys. The big white guy is our history teacher. And the black guy, he is our English teacher, but he's also the head elder of my church. And he's also my father. So now we're like, oh my goodness, like the cops would have been one thing, like the cops probably wouldn't care. We didn't steal anything, but like now we're like completely worried that like my dad is gonna be the one that's on high alert. We've been gone for like an hour and a half and we don't know anything about what happened in the last hour. So we're freaking out on another level. Like, we're all really close friends. Mark and Michael, I've been friends with the 2 twins since 2nd grade. So like my dad is like a basic extension of their dad, and their dad's a pastor. So it's like, if my dad finds out, it's like gonna be toast for them. So we're like, we gotta come up with an even better plan now. Like, my dad's on high alert. So we're like, as we're going back and walking to the campsite, we're like, well, at least we have this information about these guys. Like, let's see if we can just like blend in and like pretend like we were here the whole time. So we get back to the campsite, and sure enough, everyone's like talking about these guys that were like trying to talk to the girls. Like, they're so old. Like, why are they trying to talk to these young girls? Like, that was weird. So like we blend in and we're like, oh yeah, I don't know what, well, yeah, those guys, like, we didn't know really what happened. So we're just trying to like go along with the conversations. And then we try and like throw in that, like, I think also those guys were like digging through people's stuff. And so like, we're trying to blame them for things that we did just in case, because we're not trying to get caught by my dad. No, that's like the last thing that we want. And, we have our meal as a big group and we sing all of our songs to Jesus and we have a great time there. And we get back to our tent finally at the end of the night, not having gotten caught for anything. And me, Mark, Michael, Nas, we're so excited that like this day has gone through masterfully. Our plans worked out. Nobody caught us for anything. And it just really worked out. And that moment, that night for me was kind of big because I realized that these 3 guys would go with me anywhere and they would pretend to do anything and they would have my back wherever. So 3 years later, when me and Nas became roommates in college at another Seventh-day Adventist Christian college, Nas had my back when people were breaking into our dorm room and they wanted to fight us. And then 4 years after that, all of these guys were groomsmen in my wedding. And, the night before my wedding, they said, what are we doing? Are we staying in and talking? Are we going out for one last night of freedom? And so when it came to 4 years after that, and I knew that I had to tell someone, anyone, that I stopped believing in Jesus, I didn't call my dad. I didn't call my siblings. I called these 3 same guys because I knew that no matter what, they wouldn't be judging me for not believing in Jesus. And even though Mark was a pastor, I knew that he would still treat me exactly the same way because these are guys that I knew had my back from when I was really young. Thank you.
Nice. Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Give it up for Devan. That was amazing.